If you've been in the same job for more than 2 years and have never asked for a raise, you have effectively given your employer a $15,000 gift, not a one-off bonus. Every single year, the average Australian who stays in a role for 3 years without a pay rise loses over $40,000 in cumulative earnings compared to someone who switches jobs or negotiates annually. But here is the part that makes people uncomfortable. Most Australians do not negotiate because they are afraid of being seen as difficult, and their employer knows this. The number coming up is going to feel personal. The gap between what you are paid and what you could be paid is almost never about performance. It is about who asked first. Part 1. Why your boss will never offer you more money. Companies have salary budgets. Those budgets are split between attracting new talent and keeping existing staff. Here is what most people believe. They think good work gets noticed and rewarded automatically. That is how it should work. That is not how it works. The structural reality in Australian workplaces is that annual pay rises, if they happen at all, sit between 2 and 3%. That barely keeps up with inflation. Meanwhile, the same company will offer a new hire 15 to 20% more than the person already doing the job, because recruitment budgets are larger than retention budgets. It is cheaper for HR to replace you than to proactively give you a raise. But here is the loop I am opening. The moment you signal that you might leave, the retention budget magically appears. A study by the Australian HR Institute found that employees who negotiated a raise after receiving an external offer got an average increase of 12%. Those who simply asked without an offer got 7%. Those who never asked got nothing. The difference is not about skill. It is about leverage. And almost nobody builds leverage before they walk into that meeting. Part 2. The one number that changes every negotiation. Most people walk into a salary conversation and say, "I would like a pay rise." That is a feeling. The person across the table deals in numbers. So give them a number they cannot ignore. Go to sites like Seek, Hayes Salary Guide, or the APS Jobs classification if you work in government. Find the market rate for your role in your city. In Sydney, a marketing coordinator earns between $70,000 and $90,000. In Adelaide, the same role pays $60,000 to $75,000. If you earn $65,000 in Sydney, you are underpaid by at least $10,000. That is your number. Now, here is the detail that changes everything. Do not ask for the market rate. Ask for slightly above it, because the employer will negotiate down. If you want a $10,000 raise, ask for $15,000. They will come back at 8. You settle at 12, you win. The person who asks for 10 gets offered 5 and takes it. The other reason people fail is timing. Asking for a raise in December when budgets are set for the next financial year is pointless. The best time is March or April, when annual budgets are being finalised and managers have not yet allocated all their salary pool. The second best time is immediately after a major win. You closed a big deal, you covered for a sick colleague, you saved the company money. That is not bragging. That is evidence. And without evidence, you are just asking for charity. Part 3. The exact script that works in Australian workplaces. You do not need to be aggressive. You do not need to threaten to leave. You need to be prepared. Here is the script. Send an email to your manager saying you would like 15 minutes to discuss your role and contributions. That is neutral. In the meeting, say this: "I have really enjoyed working on X project over the last 6 months, and I am proud of achieving Y result. I have also been looking at market data for my role. Based on the Hayes Salary Guide, the typical range for this position in Melbourne is between 80 and 95,000. I am currently at 72. I would like to align my salary with the market. and I am aiming for 85,000. Can we work together to make that happen? That is it. You have not threatened to quit. You have not complained. You have provided data. The manager now has two options. They can say yes, no, or we will review at performance review time. If they say no, ask what specific outcomes would justify that raise in the next 3 months. Get it in writing. If they say we will review later, set a date. Do not leave without a calendar invitation. If they say yes, get it in writing before you leave the room. The counterargument is that you might look greedy, but the data shows that managers respect employees who know their worth. The ones who get fired for asking were already on the way out. The ones who stay silent are the ones who stay stuck. For public sector workers, the process is different. You cannot negotiate individual salaries in most APS roles, but you can ask for a reclassification. That means formally requesting your role be assessed at a higher level. The paperwork is on the APSC website, and almost nobody does it. Part 4. The person who asks versus the person who waits. Take two people doing the same job in Brisbane. Both start at $70,000. Person A never asks for a raise. They receive the standard 2% increase each year. After 5 years, they earn $77,300. Total earnings over 5 years, $365,000. Person B asks for a raise in year 2 and gets 8%, taking them to $75,600. They ask again in year 4 and get another 7%, taking them to $87,000. Total earnings over 5 years, $409,000. The gap is $44,000. That is a deposit on a house. That is 2 years of HEX debt. Now extend it to 10 years. Person A is on $85,000. Person B, after 3 successful negotiations, is on $115,000. The cumulative gap exceeds $150,000. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. That $150,000, if invested in an ASX ETF like VGS with average returns of 8%, becomes over $300,000 by retirement. Person A did not work less hard. They did not show up late. They just never asked. The fear of a 30-second uncomfortable conversation cost them $300,000 over their career. And the worst part is that person A will never know. They will just feel vaguely underpaid and assume that is how work is. The salary negotiation gap is not a gender gap, though that exists too. It is not an age gap or an education gap. It is a permission gap. Most Australians were raised to believe that talking about money is rude, that good work speaks for itself, that asking for more makes you difficult. Those beliefs serve your employer perfectly. They do not serve you. The person who asks is not greedy. They are informed. They did the research. They brought the data. They treated their labour like a market transaction, which is exactly what it is. The person who stays silent is not humble. They are subsidising their employer's bottom line with their own discomfort. So here is the question you need to sit with. What is the actual dollar cost of every conversation you have avoided because you are afraid of how you might sound? And how much of your future are you willing to keep trading for the comfort of not asking?